more than basic. It's a portion of his rap at the core is ancient. It's reported like a pack of some more observations. They're important like the fact that we're bored of fake shit. More creative, have the floor, so take it. Travel to the core is a normal placement. Tattoos on my arm in a form of face.
Hello, guys. That's a little bit of pleasant ASMR to get you started today, because this conversation may not actually be pleasant.
Why?
This may not be one of those that you actually like, but I'm pretty okay with that because I think this is one of those that has to happen today. Like it's a subject that neither myself nor Ben nor Mike actually likes talking about.
Okay.
I suspect that you don't want to talk about it either, but it's one that we're going to get into today because today is just a day for it. And I'm all about doing the work that's in front of me in 2020. And what's in front of you right now is Tattoo with Children, which we're listening to, Tattoo with Children. I am your host, Flavor Ray, and seat A across from me and seat B is the Dread Pirate Benjamin. Across from us both is a fountain of geopolitical knowledge, which I will be using drastically, drawing from that well of knowledge. CIO No Pain. Guys, it's Wednesday, and depending on who you speak with, depending on which echo chamber you occupy, we are either at war, about to be at war, on the brink of imminent destruction, or we're just fine.
Okay, so I really want to talk about war, but if you guys could get this conversation started, my brother's here to talk to me, the second brother of the day.
Right, okay.
I told you this moon's going to be a thing.
Yeah, the moon
is a thing.
He's referring to the full wolf moon coming on Friday. We're getting probably more interesting energy this week than we have in the last, 6 months. So we're filming a lot of stuff at once here. We're filming the podcast, even though we're recording a podcast, even though this is not the best environment at the moment to record a podcast. But we're absolutely pushing forward because that's the work that we do. So what he's referring to getting started on war, he's referring to Iran, a country you may have heard about. And the fact that
not a Flock of Seagulls song.
America has taken a interesting tact with Iran in the last few days or so, where we slaughtered, I think is the best word, one of their senior government officials, which is not something that you normally do, but we say that we had good reason. I am of two minds about this because I know some of the situation, but I do not know all of the situation, which means that most people pretty much know zero of the situation. So, and that's exactly what I'm seeing on the internet. You know, like, and I hate to treat the internet like it's reality. Like, that's one of the things that fights in my mind, the idea that what happens online is actually how you people actually feel or actually think. Like, I don't like thinking that because online we all have our personas. Like, if you go to my Twitter, Hunter Vanguard, that guy on Twitter is not actually me. He's not actually my, espouses all of my views the way that I normally espouse them. But on Twitter, he's a perfect representative of the points that I try to get across. And so, you know, he's very pointed, a lot of vitriol, and he is a master of trolling. It's a skill that I developed, you know, over the course of any number of Twitter wars over the years. But it's not me. And so I keep thinking that what you say on the internet is equally not you. it's becoming more apparent that the longer the internet exists, the more the online persona that you project is actually your actual personality. And someone actually on Twitter yesterday pointed this out. They tweeted out, is your personality on Twitter who you are in person? And then as a rejoinder to that said, I like to think that I am, that my personality on Twitter is the same as my personality in real life. So that's a goal that they're espousing to. I was horrified. I was horrified to think that a person would be trying to display their actual personality on Twitter. That is not the place to display your personality, in my opinion. But I will accept that that is what's happening. And if I accept that that's what's happening, that means you people are pretty much freaking the fuck out right now. You're in a near panic.
It does seem, with all those qualifiers, it does seem like the internet in general is freaking the fuck out.
I mean, I've seen so many things about draft, military draft.
It's not going to happen.
In regard, it's not that it. See, here's the thing about it. It's not that it's not going to happen. It's not that it is not a thing that America does. America does do drafts. Okay, we all at the age of 18, we all sign up for selective service. What is that? Well, that means if I need to go to jury duty, I get called to jury duty. That means if I need to go kill a motherfucker in a foreign shore or get killed, as is the likely case, then they can call me up to do that. So right. America does do drafts. We have the ability, the logistics in place to do a draft. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do that because this is not a war. I really don't understand how people who lived through 2 Iraq wars can think that we're going to war with Iran right now.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. And that if we did go to war with Iran, that we would somehow need to institute a draft to prosecute such a war.
I mean, with the technology we have now, I mean, the only way we're going full boots on the ground, World War II style, or even Vietnam style,
right?
Okay, is if we have a really good reason not to level a city.
Yeah, there would have to be in other words, if we were to march on, say, Central Europe, we would have to do it by boots on the ground.
Right.
We couldn't just glass Europe and then be like, all right, we did that and claim, we couldn't do that. Right. I don't think there is anything in Iran that we would not hesitate to glass.
The oil fields.
But dude, the oil fields are so far outside the city,
exactly.
They're not even worth talking about.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. We have no interest in making war with Iran. I don't have no interest in that. Vladimir Putin has no interest in that. Donald Trump has no interest in that, as you saw today with whatever the fuck he was saying today. Good God.
Oh, if you have not yet gotten the ability to interpret the word soup that is a Donald Trump speech, then you probably won't ever.
It's literally blah, 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 slur, 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 Obama, blah, blah, blah. It was ridiculous. Immediately Adderall began trending on Twitter, so I know you heard it. The whole point is that something happened that was somewhat unusual in the geopolitical stage, but not so unusual that it could cause all this freak out. The only reason why this is even an issue is because Donald Trump was the one that did it, and everything Donald Trump does is half-assed, and we can all see how half-assed it was.
To be a little bit more fair, not that I want to be fair to Trump, because my personal views, are very much not in sync with his.
By the way, dude, I just want to say this before you get started. Don't think that I'm saying this as an opposition to Donald Trump. I'm just saying this as an objective, logical human being.
Right, and that's our goal here.
That this he just wasn't with his whole ass.
The reason this is a thing is because it's not because it doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay. The assassination of a high-profile government official, right, is
Right.
what's rare. Not that assassinations are rare,
Yeah, assassinations happen all the time.
but someone of the level of this Iranian general Soleimani,
Right.
it's not common.
See, what normally happens is if this has to happen, if we got to do a high level guy, we make a lot of calls. We get not a permission, but we get a good informed opinion from all of our allies. We move in and we capture the guy, and we put him on trial, and then we execute him.
Correct. Or if we're going to do an assassination like that, you don't know the United States did it for sure.
Right. Yeah. Unless it's like the only time we assassinate somebody just straight out and then take credit for it is if it's someone like Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, where everyone in the world is like, yeah, this guy's no good at all.
So Everett said, dude, even his friends are like, yeah, you need to die. You know, like that's when we send in SEAL Team 6 and get the job done. But otherwise, if it's a high level government official, as this guy, so okay, there's some confusion about what level of government, what level he was in the Iranian government. He was at the level of a secretary of the military. So in the United States, we have the Secretary of Navy, Secretary of the Army, Secretary of the Marines, and Secretary of the Air Force. We assassinated one of those four in Iran.
More commonly, people out there may know these particular positions together as the Joint Chiefs.
The Joint Chiefs. We assassinated one of the Joint Chiefs.
If you remember the movie Independence Day with Will Smith, okay, the Joint Chiefs were taken out in the first attack by the aliens.
Right. And it was a devastating move. Okay, so this is a good hit against the Iranian government as far as saying, hey, fuck you. You know, that was a real fuck you. But he was still a legitimate target because of some things that had happened in the past with this particular guy. So I think some knowledge of what this guy is and who this guy was could probably be helpful at this point. I cannot pronounce his entire name, I don't believe. Mike, can you do that?
Qasim Soleimani.
Qasim Soleimani. Is that his whole name? There was some more stuff in there. Okay. Qasim Soleimani. Soleimani made his bones in the Iran or Iraq war back in the 80s. This is important to remember. Iran and Iraq are traditional enemies. Okay, they're two different tribes of Muslim. They don't get along. And in the Iran-Iraq war, he was a general of, I think, the 41st Division, and made his bones there. Afterwards, he got involved in things like Hezbollah. Mm-hmm. You remember them? He was one of the primary organizers originally of Hezbollah. So automatically, you begin to see how this is going. You know, he's an enemy of Israel, of course, which makes him an enemy of the United States. He was heavily involved in the Russian intervention in Syria. In fact, I think he organized those forces, if I recall correctly. He was, like I said, he's head of a branch of the Iranian military, which was their clandestine group, which is basically all of their international military involvement.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Yeah. He was basically anything that remember, Iran has been subject to economic sanctions and military material embargo for quite some time now. That has a tremendous effect on their ability to make war. They can't build up military the same way that Israel can, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates. Like, they can't build up that kind of military. So in order to compete with them, they had to do what's called asymmetric warfare. Basically, they get partisans to do hit and run attacks and terrorist actions on their behalf. And Hezbollah is one of those groups, and they had a bunch of groups in Syria. And so he was basically the organizer of most of their international military. So when it came to when Iraq had this problem with ISIS, the Iranians immediately sent in their clandestine military, who was headed by Soleimani, and they brought in troops to help Iraq fight ISIS. That's how they got into Iraq.
Right, which you would think is weird because of the history between Iraq and Iran and how it's been so. It's basically been a massive Cold War since the Islamic Revolution in Iran,
right,
and the rise to power of Saddam Hussein.
And the rise of Saddam Hussein, but we did Iran a solid by getting rid of Saddam Hussein.
There's a big reason for that geopolitically. Okay.
Yes.
Iraq consists of three major groups of Muslims. Okay, the Shia, the Sunni. Okay, and there's a third group who I don't recall off the top of my head. Okay. The Shia and the Sunni have basically been fighting each other forever and a day since Muhammad.
Yeah,
okay?
Pretty much.
Saddam Hussein was a Sunni Muslim. And Iran is all Shia Muslims.
Yes, and Iraq is also a good portion Shia Muslim.
Yes. So now, with what the U.S. did in Operation Iraqi Freedom and the establishment of the Iraqi Constitution after the elimination of Saddam Hussein, is that the Shia group has as much power in government as is equal to their population, to their size, right?
Right.
And so now Iran can come in and can work deals with the coalition governments of Iraq, and there's at least a platform on which these two countries can get along.
Yes. So now, where before there was no way for them to talk, okay, they were literally at loggerheads and could not. There was no way. There was no pathway to conversation. Now there's a very clear pathway to conversation, and they have many high-level conversations that they couldn't have had before. And that was largely due to Operation Iraqi Freedom removing Saddam Hussein as a stumbling block. And so as a result, when they had the problem with ISIS in Iraq, Iran was able to send help, and they did. They organized. They not only sent in their own troops, they also organized and led the Shia military and the Kurdish military.
That's the third group. Is the Kurdish group
in Iraq to assist the United States in the defeat of ISIS in Iraq.
That is extraordinarily important, and that is a big point to bring up. The Kurdish people are considered persona non grata,
correct,
in most of the Muslim nations. Okay, Turkey has a huge problem, with the Kurdish forces. Okay, because Iraq and Turkey and Syria, they all share an upper border.
Right.
Okay. And the Kurdish kind of overlaps all three countries.
Right.
Their traditional territory.
Their traditional territory is kind of across those borders. But this guy Soleimani was able to really get those two groups working together in joint operations with the United States and to fight ISIS. And by the way, this occurred in 2014, 2015.
Yes.
So this is towards the end of the Obama administration and continued into 2016. Now, right about to give you an idea of where Soleimani was politically in Iran at this time, in 2016, it was requested that he resign as head of the clandestine group, the Qud in Iran, so he can run for president in 2017. They wanted him to lead the government. He refused. He refused multiple times. Why? Well, he said he would always be a simple soldier serving Iran. The truth is, if he became president of Iran, it would remove much of his actual power.
Right.
The president of Iran is not like the president of the United States.
No, and that's a good segue into the political structure of Iran after the Islamic Revolution.
Yeah.
It's important to understand that Iran has a government that is in a lot of ways very similar to the parliamentary governments of Europe and other countries. Okay, but their president doesn't retain a whole lot of power. Their president is basically in charge of executing the plan set up by the supreme leader.
Right. The supreme leader is the actual leader of Iran. And we're about to get into we're delving deep into the geopolitical structures here. I don't want to delve that deep into them because this honestly is not that important to the conversation that actually needs to happen. We just need to have a little baseline of actual information before we get into all of the disinformation. So we're going to take a little quick break here, and then we'll go into what we actually want to talk about.
My name ain't Mikey, but yeah, I rock. You know why? Because I don't give a fuck. That's why it doesn't.
You're back with Tattoo with Children. All right, so what I wanted to get into
First of all, are y'all done with the bullshit? Because I'm
nearly. This is just one more piece here.
God damn it!
I just wanted to tell the people. All right, so what Soleimani didn't want to become president. What he did want. Now, keep in mind, we had prosecuted a war in Iraq, right? Mm-hmm. And we had a mission in Afghanistan. Okay, so Afghanistan and Iraq, both of which have borders with Iran. What Soleimani's work was during our missions in Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan, his goal was to remove the United States military from those countries. So he stymied our efforts every chance he got during those missions, which means he sent forces there to work with partisans. He killed U.S. soldiers. He did terrorist actions. They planted IEDs. He did all of that shit. Okay. So if you hate him, you have some reason to hate him.
So my take on this is, as far as it goes, the first time I had a Soleimani sandwich, I was in Austin, I think.
I knew it was going to go here.
Yeah. See, we had a real nice flow going on here with geopolitical information being flowed. And now here comes Ben,
the Dread Pirate Benjamin. I can talk about this. I've had a Soleimani sandwich.
Okay, even everybody knows what Soleimani is now. You know he's not a sandwich.
The fact that you still have all of your face determined that was a lie.
Yeah. So he's a bad dude.
So he was actually a bad guy from our perspective.
Right.
And in Iran, he was not a bad guy. He was actually a great leader.
Yeah, because they worship bad guys.
Yeah, it's like in other words, like not everybody agreed with what he did or what he was or who he was.
Yeah.
But everybody pretty much respected the guy. It's kind of like Colin Powell or somebody.
But it's like this though. Even in our own country, okay, we have military leaders that we don't necessarily like, but we respect them.
Yes.
Okay.
General Petraeus.
I understand from the United States' perspective, right?
Yeah.
This is a bad dude.
Yeah.
Okay. But you've got to understand from the perspective of the Iranian people, who are no different from you and me.
Right.
Okay. That he was well respected and liked because from their perspective, he was the good soldier pursuing what needed to be done for their country.
Okay. And his goal was to get the United States out of the countries that border Iran.
Okay, so I respect countries that have good sports teams.
Correct.
In something.
Sure.
Irania does not have one of those.
Oh, God. Okay.
They can't play soccer.
There is no country called Irania.
They can't. I thought that's where the Iranians came from.
No, that's not. They actually come from Iran.
You need to take a couple more letters off that.
Iran. I don't understand why Ben in geography has such a hard time.
Especially when I'm so bright about some things. You know what I'm saying? But like when it comes, I'm like, is that past Corrigan? Do you take a left when you get to Corrigan?
Yeah,
is that where Irania is?
How do we get to Baghdad? Is this somewhere around Vider?
This is look, I get it, and I also understand the rules of engagement. I probably understand the rules of engagement as well as the two of you.
I believe that is true.
However, we are in an era of, for lack of a better term, we are in an era of warring states, not warring countries. And I recognize, with respect to how fast the political climate and the technological climate is changing, okay? Mm-hmm. I respect that we might believe that we're still operating on rules that existed in 1995 and in 2005.
Right.
But the truth is, we are not.
Yes.
We are not operating on those rules. One of the most fascinating conversations that I've listened to recently, and it's difficult to actually call it a conversation because the truth of the matter is, it was Joe Rogan and Edward Snowden.
Yeah.
That conversation completely caught me up to date on where I thought we were versus where we are.
Actually are. Yeah.
And it entirely changed my mind about Edward Snowden.
Okay.
I just got to tell you, man.
What'd you think about Edward Snowden before?
Before, I was under the impression that he was a low-level tech kid with no understanding of the steps he was taking.
Oh, really?
When he went into his whistleblowing routine.
Okay.
After that conversation, I have been informed that his family has been in the United States government and the United States military since there was one.
Yes, that is correct.
And he not only completely understood what he was doing, but was still in dialogue with his admiral grandfather when he did what he did.
Yes.
Because his concern was the growing chasm between where the American people think we are versus where we actually are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And what he felt was happening politically and technologically. Mm-hmm. He felt like it was akin to leaving the gold standard.
Yes. And he's correct.
And I was a little bit blown away by his candor.
Yeah, like Edward Snowden is a very interesting character. When he went the whole whistleblowing route, I was working for a company connected to the information services at the time, and so it was very important to us what he was doing, and we were very much two camps about it. There was a camp that was like, if you tell any of this information when you're not supposed to, like, it has headings and levels, and if you violate those headings and levels, then you are a traitor to the United States. I was more of the opinion that when you serve the American people, you cannot be a traitor to the United States because you're serving the people, and giving information to the people is serving them. Mm-hmm. I was not going to violate my own headings and levels, but I could understand why he was violating his. Well, it wasn't because he was trying to hurt anybody. He was very much concerned that the United States was hiding a strategic sea change in the way that we do business from the American people. It wasn't that he thought that they were a group of people trying to hurt the American people. It's like they're hiding what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we do in the United States. We do not hide what we do from our own people.
Well, and this is in to your point, this is informing, one of the reasons this informed me about the situation we find ourselves in now is his description of the days following 9/11.
Right.
I got to be honest with y'all. There was no one with the constitution of General Schwarzkopf there.
At all.
There was no one near that.
Right.
What he got and what he observed directly in his own experience was people going, oh, this might be a target. Sound the general alarm and get everyone gone.
Right.
Whereas the man I grew up with, who was in charge of Desert Storm, think of it what you will,
Right.
would have gone, all right, motherfuckers, saddle up. This is what we signed up for.
Right.
This is who we are.
Right.
Stand on the motherfucking wall.
Right.
This is why I believe he's correct in his notion that something has changed.
Yes. There has definitely been a seed, and it's the reason why Trump's administration does so much on Twitter, because that is the fastest source of information.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just the speed. It's got nothing to do with political expediency.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the speed of information.
Yes.
So he did not. So he went and he fired a missile at Soleimani and didn't inform Congress. Well, he didn't inform Congress because from the moment he made the decision to the time the missile launched was a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
To go through the congressional channel to involve Congress in the decision would have slowed it down by 3 days.
Yeah.
When he was in the realm of 3 minutes.
Right.
And that's what's different. So rather than inform Congress, she just sends out a tweet and say, hey, I just killed Soleimani.
Mm-hmm.
And now you know, and everybody knows.
And everybody's upset about it. And based on the old rules of engagement, I completely agree.
Yes.
But the rules of engagement changed in 2002. I specifically said 12 months after 2001.
Uh-huh.
The rules of engagement changed, guys.
They changed at the legislative level, by the way.
And they changed.
Yes.
And
Patriot Act.
And it was, well, okay, but go listen to Snowden, because the Patriot Act looks like an ABC book based on the document that was written and then placed in a safe in the wall at the White House that no more than 8 people have ever laid eyes on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That he hasn't even seen, by the way.
Edward Snowden hasn't read that document. We do know it exists, though.
We know it exists, but no one's actually read it.
Yes, but I've seen the Cliff Notes version.
And that document is the new rules of engagement.
Yes.
So if you're upset about the Soleimani sandwich situation, I respect that.
Yes, you have a right to be upset about it.
You do, and you have a right to talk about it, and you have a right to conversate with your friends, and you have a right to discuss what's right and wrong. But Tattooed with Children is here to tell you the rules of engagement changed in 2002.
So don't be upset. See, this is the whole reason why I had this episode. I don't want you guys to be upset because your government acted improperly. Okay? Your government did not actually act improperly.
In this case.
In this case, they didn't. I know it looks like it. I know people have told you that they did. And I know a lot of talking heads on CNN are telling you that they did. And MSNBC has their agenda. And Fox News has its agenda. Look, they did not act improperly. They may have jumped the gun. They may have picked an interesting target at an interesting time. The timing is suspect. Okay.
The motivations of the actors involved needs to be examined.
The motivation of the actual incident is also a little suspect. And there may have been some untruths that were sort of fudged in order to satisfy that document in the wall. That is not to say that they acted improperly. He was a legitimate target. A legitimate target for assassination. Okay? Like that is the thing. He was it was not an improper action that way.
And under the new rules of engagement.
Under the new rules of engagement.
Which, by the way, I'm not going to say we know what those are.
No.
But I am going to say that, like, you would call what happened after we left the gold standard criminal 12 months earlier.
Yes.
But when the Federal Reserve decided to leave the gold standard, it changed the operating agreement.
Yes.
We can all disagree with it.
You can say that they were printing money on nothing from that point forward, and you would be right.
Correct. But you cannot say it was criminal.
But it was not criminal because they did the step necessary to make it not criminal.
And what I'm arguing is that our current president, my president, the president of the United States,
yes,
love him or hate him, he is operating on the new rules of engagement.
Yes.
And the only reason I say that is because that's what I believe patriotism to be. I believe patriotism to be the reason this country, the reason this state still holds the place it does on this planet is because we can say, I don't like that. I didn't know about that. I want to change that. And we can do so freely on these microphones, on social media, in books, on paper, in public, without fear of dying.
Yes.
And that is an incredible thing.
Well, I mean, it's so powerful that even Iran's government has absolutely 100% recognized that their problem in all of this is not the people of the United States. It is the leaders currently in power.
They have said that repeatedly.
Sure.
And the Iranian people themselves have also said, like, if you look at what's being said right now, there's a lot of flag waving and rather flag on Iran right now, whereas they were on the cups of a bunch of protests and things because they've had some issues in their country, domestic issues.
Well, for starters, when we throw a funeral for our beloved leaders, 40 people don't die.
Right.
We throw a funeral, we pay our respects, and then we go home.
Right, yeah.
When they throw a funeral in their country, right?
40 people died from being trampled.
40 people died from being trampled by other people.
Right.
And all I have to say is, fuck that noise.
Yeah, there's a lot of rally around the flag on their Iranian flag going on right now. That was spurred on immediately by this attack, and so that is something that's not great for us. Another effect of this of this assassination is that Soleimani has achieved in death something he probably could not have achieved in life, where the Iraqi government is on the verge of kicking us out of the country.
Yes. Because while we had the military agreement to launch that kind of attack on Iraqi soil because of our presence, right?
Yeah.
He was well liked enough for the things he did there that it was the dumbest move politically that we could have made.
It was, like
Iraq.
I said earlier, the target of the attack is very much suspect. I'm not sure what was actually gained. Was the guy a bad guy? I've wanted to kill the guy for a long time. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. He was a piece of shit. Because he killed a lot of American soldiers, and American soldiers are my favorite people. So killing American soldiers is something that's going to earn my ire every time. But at the same time, there are consequences for every action. And we're going to get into some more of that as soon as we get back to the break.
Everybody dancing, dog. Y'all on that X. I'm a sentinel, standing tall. No time to stand still. Please don't be dog. They're throwing jazz at me to challenge my rap savvy. I sway like
You're back with Tattoo with Children and our 100% sandwich episode. We're discussing the Soleimani sandwich conundrum.
Soleimani, let him.
Let me go. Okay.
Soleimani.
Mike would not join on that. He refused to join me.
I have far too much respect for Freddie Mercury to join with you on that.
This is serious, y'all.
Oh, this is very serious. All right, we're talking about geopolitical war here.
And I can't get a goddamn Reuben or a Soleimani. So
all right, consequences for eating your Salome sandwich you're not supposed to. You ate your sandwich early, bitch. What are the consequences? Well, apparently, if you fuck my government official up the asshole with a missile, I'm going to fire a missile at my own plane. Wait, is that what I did?
Well, okay, I'm sorry. First, what they did was they attacked the bases in Iraq at which the U.S. soldiers were stationed. Now, the funny thing is, I don't think they actually intended to do anything but look good to their own people.
Yes.
Right.
Because the Iranian missile systems are...
The impact.
He's about to say Iranian. I just fucking know.
I
The
know.
impact
It's
of the
blowing
dread
my mind.
Pirate Benjamin.
It's extraordinarily accurate, and they've proven it before.
Sure.
Right? Like down to they were able to blow up one room in a building where a bunch of people were with one of these missiles, okay?
Right.
And this time they specifically picked targets that would not only lessen collateral damage, right? But make the damage purely equipment based and not human life.
They did three things that are very important to note here. One, they informed the Iraqi government about the attack beforehand. Two, they informed the Finnish military about the attack beforehand to make sure that we knew that the attack was coming. Mm-hmm. And then three, they targeted bases where we could actually take the hit and not lose any personnel, and we lost no personnel.
Yeah, because again, I would argue that this is about the constitution of a person.
Mm-hmm. Do they have a person in the Iranian government with that
constitution? Do they
constitution?
have a person in the Iranian government who is going to go home and tell his wife tonight that she cannot have that new Mercedes he promised on New Year's Eve?
Right.
That she cannot go work out at that dope gym that she wants to go work out at.
Right.
And that she cannot tell her friends that she's redesigning the kitchen.
I think one of the problems that Americans have is that we have a very odd view of Iran. We view Iran like we view Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And Iran is not Afghanistan, people. Iran is more like Nevada. Okay? They've got everything that they like. They've got the shit that they want.
More like Utah.
Okay, Utah. Yeah, more like Utah.
But my point is still the same.
Yes.
But because you would have to have someone with the Constitution to go home and say, hey, you know all that money I told you we could spend? Yeah, we can't spend that.
Yeah, we can't spend that money.
Well, how come? Well, because I have to fire some missiles today and it costs money. Well, don't fire those missiles because I've already ordered the new Granite.
Exactly.
And you say, well, Ben, that's stupid. They don't have Granite in Iran. Look, people are people.
They have Granite in Iran.
People are people.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is where we've lost our sensibility.
We're getting all the 80s hits today, aren't we?
This is where we've lost our sensibility to recognize that.
Did y'all get that? Did y'all get? Wait, that's it. I don't want y'all to miss that one. That was so good from Mike. I love it.
Mike is on one today.
People are people.
People are people. All right, go.
People who need people.
Fuck them people. No, go. Keep going.
People who need people are probably the people who get blown up by missiles when they were least expecting it.
Just like I don't need nobody.
So my point being is that
except you, babe, I need you.
We've never.
He's my own personal Jesus.
We've never been able.
This motherfucker, Mike.
We have never been able to respect our enemies as being like us.
Yes.
You know, you think back to the scenes that we read about as kids and that we saw as adolescents in Band of Brothers, where the German soldiers and the American soldiers are both singing Silent Night at Christmas time.
Right.
And people say, well, I would never do that with the Iranians. But you would if you had to go home tonight and tell your wife to cancel the Granite order or to cancel the membership to Loud House CrossFit.
Right.
Or to not expect that vacation. You would absolutely understand what that person's going through.
In other words, look at it this way, guys. If somebody did assassinate the Secretary of the Navy today, would you be willing to then go to your wife and say, hey, I had to quit my job and volunteer for the military because they assassinated Secretary of the Navy? Your wife would say, who the fuck is that? Do you know his name? Mm-hmm. You'd be like, that guy. Like, that's exact. So, in other words, the Iranian government had plans in place already for 2020, and this guy getting offed ain't gonna derail that shit.
There's only one thing I think that would push people into the position of this has to be done, right? And we've seen it before. We've seen it in the thing that started all of that didn't started, but was a contribution to all of this that we're seeing now, and that was an attack on civilians.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
100%.
If Iran targeted a civilian population, if we target a civilian population, right?
Shit's on then.
It's on.
Yeah. The rules of engagement still have not gone that far.
Yeah, it hasn't. Like, honestly, the rules of engagement, the new rules of engagement still include not targeting civilians or cultural sites and shit like that.
Unless you want to listen to all the text messages and read my search engine queries.
Those.
I'm just going to look at some birds out the window now.
There has been some talk of targeting those areas, but that was just talk. It's not going to actually happen, as indicated by the fact that after these missiles are fired, the missiles are fired. Basically, the Joint Chiefs or whoever is in Trump's camp that he actually talks to went to him and said, hey, Mr. President, they got their lick back, so we can stop. Like, honestly, they just basically tapped us on the shoulder and said, hey, bro, and so I think we should stop. And then Trump came on television today and said, hey, we're just going to stop.
I'm pretty sure the conversation went a little bit like this. Trump goes to the Joint Chiefs and said, do we go back? And they're like, no, you shouldn't do that. Well, I didn't listen to you last time, so why should I listen to you this time? And they said, because you look good, no one died. Yeah. And he's like, okay, that's good. We're fine.
And of course, according to Iranian TV, they injured 200 and killed 80. That didn't happen.
Right.
You know, it's like, if you got that information, it's false information. Don't pass that information around.
Yeah, because they're already trying to figure out who pushed the button on blowing up their own goddamn plane.
So, which is
somebody got fired.
Somebody got fired, indeed.
And they probably got executed.
They got a nasty phone call this morning from Russia. And that's much worse than getting a nasty phone call from us.
Much worse.
That is the difference between getting a nasty phone call from me, where I'm like, so, hey, listen, versus getting a nasty phone call from my wife, which is like, fuck the land your ancestors were born on.
Yeah. If you've ever spoken and you're going to speak to Ben's wife at some point, I'm sure, if you listen to podcasts out of this particular studio, because she is also a podcaster and she's great, but she has a much more confrontational personality than Ben.
Yeah.
And just like Putin has a much more confrontational personality than everybody that you know.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, listen. So that thing that you did, is there a way that we could possibly get you to not do that?
Could you not blow up your own shit?
And as opposed to Sarah, who is like, hey, I have a guy outside your house right now. He has a can of gasoline and a bunch of matches.
So, Mike, real briefly, explain the blow up the plane attack. That's actually the funniest part about this.
The what?
The blow up the plane thing.
Okay, so a Ukrainian Airlines flight was delayed about an hour. It was supposed to take off at 5:30 in the morning, and it was leaving at 6. And ended up leaving at 6:30 in the morning. And when it reached about 8,000 feet, its transponder went offline completely. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so witnesses at the scene said that it came down on a fireball.
Right.
Okay. Which eyewitness testimony on that is not, if you remember back to the TWA Flight 800 thing over Long Island, a lot of people said that they saw a streak before it hit the plane. There's no There's no evidence.
There's no
of
evidence
this.
of that whatsoever.
But also, the only information we're getting is out of Iranian state media.
Right.
Okay, so if there is that information, it may not be getting out. But Iran very, very, very quickly, within minutes of this occurring, released as much information as you would expect, and very quickly said it was due to technical malfunction.
Sure.
Okay. Now, if you've known any flight problem, minor accident, major accident in the United States, we say we don't know, but we assume this until we can prove otherwise, and
Right.
an investigation is launched.
Right.
So basically, what happened? Somebody was like, "Oh, we're shooting shit today," and they pushed a button and they blew up a commuter flight for no goddamn reason.
Had 70 Ukrainian citizens on it, 70 something Canadian citizens on it.
Yeah.
Which is, look, guys, I know our neighbor to the north is rather docile,
Right.
They're not
Okay.
that goddamn docile.
but they ain't that damn docile.
Have they apologized yet to the Ukrainians?
Oh God, I'm terribly sorry that our people blew up yours.
Trudeau probably had a phone call this morning, and said, "Hey,
That's not funny.
No,
Sorry.
it's not funny.
That's not funny.
That's not funny.
Okay,
we're not
so
going to laugh about that.
I'm not
anymore.
laughing about that. But I will say that that fuck up actually is one of the main reasons why the Iranian government was like, you know what, this is probably done as far as this part's concerned.
Yeah.
But this situation isn't done.
But
I said earlier, we have this problem now where we've created a martyr of tremendous power. And so we could end up removing ourselves from Iraq at the exact wrong time. So if that happens, then the thing that we have always feared most could actually occur, which is an Iran-Iraq coalition. Like that's never happened.
which would geopolitically
Ever.
affect us very, very poorly because
you guys not-
Russia would be involved in that."
Did you guys not know that was already predetermined?
Well, yes.
So did you know about the red calf?
Yeah.
So there was a red calf that was born in Israel this year?
Yeah.
Did
I
you
knew
know
about
about this?
that.
Mike?
No,
This-
you're going to explain it to me.
We're running
Okay, so-
into some
So if
mystical
you
shit.
no, if you read the sacred scriptures,
Uh-huh.
mainly the last book,
Uh-huh.
there is a verse in
Which one?
there's a
the
verse
Christian
in,
one.
There's
Okay.
a verse in Revelation about how the end times kick off with the birth of a red calf in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And there was a picture being shared on Tumblr a few days ago that was trending pretty high about this red baby cow that was born in Jerusalem in the last month. Now, the only reason I find this hilarious is because a few years ago, an American took matters into his own hands. He got fucking sick and tired of being wrong about the world ending.
Right.
So he started breeding red and orange cows and sending them to Israel.
I fucking love it. Like now, I might gotta look this up and make sure this actually happened.
It's a joke, guys.
It's a joke.
I don't believe this is the end of the world. And I also, while I love the Bible, I'm a
great.
huge fan.
And
of
Revelation is, by the way, my favorite
it's
goddamn book.
one of the coolest parts.
Yes,
I just want to know which one of the end times book authors was
Right.
breeding the cows. Was it Tim LaHaye or Jerry Jenkins?
There's no way to know.
One of those two.
Right.
Scholars have been debating for centuries.
But I love the fact that an American got so fucking upset he started breeding red
Started
cows.
breeding
And
red cows and
like
sent it to
please,
Jerusalem.
Jesus,
Kick off this shit.
Kick this shit off.
I am so
Let's
sick
go. Let's go.
of living.
Nike, just do it.
No, I read all of the books actually by those two, and I actually never knew that was part of the prophecy.
Well, I don't know if it is, Mike.
I
I haven't
mean,
read it recently.
it's-
There was a Tumblr thing being shared about
there's
it.
like a-
and
there's
these
like a-
fucking Tumblr kids, like they don't know whether to share anime.
Well,
or like share shit they just made up.
They've been in confusion for 2 years since they banned porn from Tumblr. Now they have no idea what to do with themselves.
Oh my God! So see, that's the other.
Wouldn't that was
the other thing about the misinformation, guys.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to who have said there are no nude photos on Tumblr anymore, and I'm like, are you a fucking idiot?
Well, no. Now they're all art.
No, they're not
No,
art.
they're not art. They're porn.
They're straight from you porn or what the fuck ever.
Guys, what's the point of having you physically here to do a podcast if you don't see me doing the air quotes?
Oh, right, that's true.
It's
You have to
art.
announce the air quotes.
It's a very artsy penis.
Because we haven't gotten the goddamn cameras up so people can see what we're doing.
You haven't obviously listened to episode 5 of Going Dutch, which was hysterical. The ladies talked about the dating scene. Okay,
God.
and they talked about like things they have experienced on first dates. I had to stop it like 6 different times. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That happens so often on Going Dutch.
Because like I was just dying with like the idea that on a first date someone would throw any article of clothing across the room not related to sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like apparently this one dude like fucking took his socks off.
Yeah, it took us.
Like what the fuck? Like Jesus Christ. And it wasn't because he was getting busy with it.
Right.
It was because he literally was acting like their living room was his.
Yeah.
And it's like you want to send the guy like one of those Hallmark cards that says like just stop trying. like your best was your 18th year and you're well past that now.
So yeah, everything that you believe is true is not true. So
Yeah.
So stop what you're doing.
I realized that I took this way off topic.
Yeah, it's way off topic,
Okay,
but
how
the
do we
topic
get-
was actually mostly finished because I got to the point I wanted to get to, which was to say, look, there are consequences, but the consequences are consequences that you don't give a fuck about people.
Right.
You don't care about us being in Iraq or not because that does not affect whether or not you get your goddamn grant. It doesn't affect whether or not you buy a Mercedes. It doesn't affect where your kids go to school. It doesn't affect you at all. So please, no longer threaten your government or your children over the idea that there will be a draft instituted to fight World War III. There is no World War III. No. We don't even have the coalition necessary. Even if Iran was to launch an attack directly against us, we wouldn't involve anybody else. It would just be us.
And for those of you who are saying, but oil and gas prices, Saudi Arabia is loving what we're doing.
Love it. They love everything that Trump
They're going
does.
to flood the production of oil.
And you know why they love it? They like money.
They
fucking love money.
They
love money
They have
more
bags
than
of
Allah.
it. They have rooms of it. They have houses full of it.
If there's one set of world leaders that I envision that act like Scrooge McDuck in his vault,
It's the
Saudi Arabians.
Yeah, exactly.
Like literally, they see all their money in a room and just jack off.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, I have
just
so
like
much.
beat their shit.
Well, just look, but you look at you even look at like where their land like runs up against the ocean.
Yeah,
and they're like, hey, we have too many buildings with money. Let's build 77 new islands.
Let's build islands and put money on them.
Yeah, like
Doesn't that sound sexy?
and you're like, okay, wait a minute. You have so much money that you built new land. Like, I don't know if you know anything about the ocean, but that's probably not going to work. Like, I can't even imagine how much they paid the architects and engineers just for the plan.
Dude, but the plans are sick. I will say that. Like,
No, they're badass.
Dude, like the palm tree island in Abu
Yes,
Dhabi.
God,
dude,
it
it's
is
fucking
so
cool.
dope.
Yeah, and then you look at the buildings they're putting up.
They're
they like
ridiculous.
soccer fields on like level 58.
It is
They have
so
like a pool.
unfortunate that climate change is going to sink all those fucking islands that they've built and
my
make
God.
it way too
It's not
hot
a
to go
problem.
there.
It's not a
fucking
problem.
liberals.
It's not a problem at all. It's not a problem because they'll just bring in more ocean and they'll build big ass air conditioners.
They're just going to change. They're going to change from putting sand in to getting buckets to take the water
What
out.
if that is the solution to Australia's problem? maybe instead of dumping water on shit, we
That's
need
a
to
good
go.
idea.
We need to go get some of the sand in Saudi Arabia and take it over there.
It's probably
Put this-
cheaper.
Well, and it's a very American
you
thing to
can't-
do. It's like
you can't put water on it,
Right.
Because it's like a grease fire because
Right,
there's so many
yeah.
animals dying.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Right now
you
it's, it's slick with animal fat.
you gotta pour
my
sand all
God.
over it.
PETA is gonna like be the first one to be like tattooed with children should not be a thing.
I will wear
Dude, I bet-
I will wear my PETA shirt.
I bet kangaroo barbecue is cheap as fuck right now.
Oh my God! Stop!
I bet you could just go down there and just with a-
stop.
Get some
I'm
sweet
not.
baby Ray's sauce.
I just want everyone
just
to
spread
know
that shit.
that
So what are you having
Australia,
today?
that
I'm
what
having
is
this
being
roasted koala.
This is what is being said right now is wrong.
It is
and
very
it
wrong.
Goes against
Australia,
Jesus.
we love you and your marsupials.
I
okay?
love the taste of your wallaby sandwiches.
We can disagree on the liking of your other venomous creatures.
That's what's on a Soleimani sandwich is barbecue wallaby.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that in another episode.
You're right. I think we've done as much good as we can today. Look, the point being, calm the fuck down. Stop blowing up everybody's messages to my World War III. Although the memes are kind of fucking funny. It's a little ridiculous.
We have Baby Yoda now. Baby Yoda does not approve of World War III.
No one does. So let's just just stop all the bullshit. I'm sick of saying it already.
Y'all are going to be fine.
And you heard that on Tattoo with Children, which is what you were listening to, Tattoo with Children. You can find us on Facebook at Tattoo with Children and also on IG at Tattoo with Children. You can find us on Twitter at Tattooed With. You can find me on Twitter at Hunter Vanguard. There's one word, Hunter Vanguard. You can also find me on IG at Madara Shadow. You can find Ben at Black Crow Brother on IG and also at Black Spot Tattoo Company. And you can find Mike Payne at CIO Payne and also at Payne.points on IG. That is Payne spelled Payne. And you can find us if you want to invest your money in something that's going to pay. You can take your hard-earned cash and put it into Tattoo with Children's Patreon. $5 gets you a great return. $50 will get you a piece of Ben Harbuck's art, which if you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty damn dope.
It's kind of going next level.
It really is. It's like every piece he makes now, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna frame this and put it next to a banana and make $250,000. It's that fucking good. So go on to patreon.com and search Tattoo with Children and then look into my eyes as you sexily give me $5. And that will be the show for today. Remember, take care of yourselves. Even during World War III, take care of yourself before you take care of everyone else. And remember that I love you.
See you guys.
Later.
We were born to bring it back, but it's more than basic. It's a portion of its rap, but the core is ancient. It's supported like a pack of some more observations. They're important like the fact that we're bored of fake shit. More creative, have the floor, so take it. Travel to the core is a normal place.